And black people can't afford to indulge rich white people's need to endlessly flagellate themselves. They just want prices to go down and good jobs and the police when you call them.
Well, if he's right, then why didn't people vote for the former prosecutor who actually had policy plans to help the working class?
Stop saying that Whoopi Goldberg getting yanked from The View right after she attacked me on The View is karma. There's no such thing as karma, sorry. Sorry, but life is random. The only word to describe it when a big game hunter gets trampled by an elephant and then eaten by lions is hilarious.
Bill Maher is out here doing what he does best, torching bad arguments and leaving the wreckage for everyone to see. His latest target, Whoopi Goldberg. And honestly, after her growing collection of head-scratching moments since 2022, nobody should be surprised. Maher didn't just push back, he took her argument apart bolt by bolt, piece by piece, until there was nothing left but sawdust. So what exactly did Whoopi say to earn this level of unfiltered response? And why did Maher's clapback land so hard? Stick around, we've got every detail, and trust us, this one does not disappoint.
Get past this endless, unforgiving, zero-tolerance mindset bent on punishing and disappearing anyone caught saying the wrong thing. The right response to speech you don't like is more...
Whoopi Goldberg decided to step into the ring, and now she's feeling the full weight of that decision. If you caught our last video, you already know Bill Maher absolutely dismantled Sunny Hostin for twisting his words on live television. Well, it looks like The View wasn't ready to take that loss quietly. Instead of regrouping, they sent in their heaviest hitter, Whoopi herself, apparently on a mission to restore the show's honor. The problem? She came in swinging before she even figured out what she was swinging at.
People can't afford to indulge rich white people's need to endlessly flagellate themselves. They just want prices to go down and good jobs and the police when you call them.
Well, if he's right, then why didn't people vote for the former prosecutor who actually had policy plans to help the working class?
And there it is, straight out of the woke playbook, Chapter 1. When your actual argument is sinking, build a straw man and attack that instead. Maher's point was crystal clear. Black Americans want better jobs, a stronger economy, and policing that actually works for their communities. Simple, direct, and hard to argue with. The Whoopi. She pivoted to talking about voting for a former prosecutor with a working-class plan. Does that connect to what Maher said? Not even close. It's like someone asking about the weather and getting a recipe for lasagna in response. Maher saw exactly what she was doing, and he was not about to let it pass.
Down statues of Lincoln and get rid of the police. Just, no, it's not that I've gotten old, it's that your ideas are...
Maher didn't dress it up. He said plainly that Whoopi's take made no sense, which, if you've watched The View lately, is basically the show's brand at this point. What started as a platform for different perspectives has slowly turned into something else entirely. A space where a handful of voices talk loudly in the same direction and call it debate. Sunny Hostin and Whoopi Goldberg have pushed that dynamic to its limits. And remember when Charlemagne the God sat across from them as a guest? You could practically read the confusion on his face in real time.
Is valid because, Democrats stand on this moral high ground all the time. And, they act so self-righteous. The reality is he didn't have to say anything in regards to, whether or not, his son wanted to be pardoned. He could have said, hey, man, I'm not focused on that right now.
Here's the context that started all of this. President Biden, who had spent years telling the country that no one is above the law, turned around and issued a pardon to his son Hunter. The same Hunter Biden who had just been found guilty in a court of law. That contradiction became the centerpiece of Charlemagne's entire point on that episode. If the standard is that accountability applies to everyone, then it has to apply to everyone, including the president's own family. That's not a partisan argument. That's just basic consistency, and yet that simple point somehow became controversial on that set.
You for a second.
Uh-oh.
Only because you don't know that it was a lie. We don't know why he changed
You really think he just changed his mind over Thanksgiving weekend all
No,
of a sudden?
I'm going to tell you what I think.
Okay.
Yeah. I think he changed his mind because he got sick of watching everybody else.
Then came the moment that genuinely made jaws drop. Whoopi Goldberg, with full confidence, claimed that Biden never actually said no one was above the law. Not a misremembering, not a slight reinterpretation, a flat-out denial of something that exists on video, audio, and in transcript form across countless news cycles. It is one of the most documented statements of his presidency, and Whoopi looked the audience in the eye and said it didn't happen.
is founded on the principle that there are no kings in America. Each of us is equal before the law. No one is.
Watching that unfold was something else. The sheer confidence with which Whoopi dismissed documented reality left Charlemagne visibly stunned. And this is a man who was sat across from some of the most unpredictable guests in media. But Whoopi kept going. She added that maybe Biden changed his position because he was tired of watching others get away with things. Charlemagne had no words. And honestly, that silence said more than any response could have.
Narrow always, because that's what's expected of Democrats.
But that's their fault. They're the ones that go out there and they stand on this moral high ground. They don't have to.
This is the pattern that frustrates so many people about this particular brand of political commentary. When someone outside the circle makes a mistake, the outrage is instant, loud, and relentless. But when it's someone from the inner circle, when it's one of their own, suddenly the volume drops. The context shifts. The defense lawyers come out. Charlemagne pushed back in the moment, but when Bill Maher heard about the exchange, he made it very clear where he stood. And he did it in the most Maher way possible.
To speak truth to power, and we always should, but you have completely lost the ability to speak truth to bullshit.
Maher's point cut right to the core of it. The entire no one is above the law argument only holds weight if it's applied without exceptions. Hunter Biden's guilt was established in a court of law. The pardon that followed wasn't a legal gray area. It was a direct contradiction of a principle that had been repeated for years. If the standard collapses the moment it becomes inconvenient, it was never really a standard to begin with. Maher wasn't ranting for the sake of it. He was holding people to the exact words they chose to say publicly, which is really the bare minimum we should expect from political commentary.
Appropriate to bury the Hunter Biden.
You're talking about the press doing that?
He's saying that's what they did, and that is what they did. They buried the Hunter Biden story before the election because they were like, we can't risk having the election thrown to Trump. We'll tell them after the election.
And we know for a fact that that's what they did?
Of course. You don't
but
follow
I mean,
this.
saying you know for a fact that that's what they did. I don't know what they did.
I know, because you only watch MSNBC.
And the media's role in all of this made it worse, not better. Rather than applying consistent scrutiny, major outlets spent considerable energy downplaying the Hunter Biden story, calling it disinformation, burying it, or simply refusing to engage with it seriously. Whoopi played right into that narrative on The View, treating the allegations as a punchline rather than a legitimate legal matter. Maher called that out directly. At a certain point, defending your side stops being loyalty and starts being dishonesty, and Maher drew that line clearly.
Above any matters of politics or what's right or wrong, the one thing I know for sure about America is this. It's run by mean girls. Mean girls in the press and in politics and in life. And when they smell blood in the water, the lust to finish off a vulnerable person will never be denied.
The deeper issue Maher keeps returning to is a cultural one. The View, especially in recent years, has positioned itself as a space for open conversation while increasingly functioning as the opposite. Whoopi, in particular, has a habit of treating disagreement not as something to engage with, but as something to dismiss. A raised eyebrow, a wave of the hand, a verbal eye roll. Maher doesn't play that game. He pushes back with specifics, with receipts, and often with humor sharp enough to make the point land twice as hard. That's why his criticism resonates with people across the political spectrum, not just those who already agree with him.
Let's run for office as if the voters don't live here, as if they don't go to the grocery store and Starbucks and the office, but they do. But a poll last year asked, if America is the greatest country in the world, more blacks and Hispanic Americans agreed with that than the white progressives. It asked if racism is built into our society. White progressives agreed with that at higher levels than black and Hispanic people. It asked if government should increase border security. Same result. Hispanic Americans are less okay with illegal immigration than whitey. And black people can't afford to indulge rich white people's need to endlessly flagellate themselves. They just want prices to go down and good jobs and the police when you call them. Black people, they're just like us.
On the broader question of why Democrats keep losing ground, Maher has been more direct than most. Trump's 2024 win wasn't a fluke, a conspiracy, or a failure of democracy. It was the result of millions of voters making a choice. And instead of understanding what drove that choice, the response from a large portion of the left has been to assign blame outward to foreign interference, to ignorance, to bad faith. Maher's argument is simple. That approach guarantees more losses. You can't win an electorate you refuse to understand.
Of Trump voters, people who really like him, they certainly are those, and then there's people who don't necessarily like him that much, but they still think he's less crazy than stuff that strikes them as aggressively anti-common sense.
Maher makes a point here that a lot of people quietly agree with, but rarely hear said out loud. Not every Trump voter was enthusiastic about Trump specifically. Many of them were simply exhausted by the alternative. When a political movement starts feeling more like a moral lecture than a genuine effort to improve people's lives, voters notice. Issues that feel disconnected from everyday concerns or that seem to actively contradict common sense push people away from the center, and the center is where elections are decided. If the goal is to actually win, the message has to meet people where they are.
Well, stop saying that Whoopi Goldberg getting yanked from The View right after she attacked me on The View is karma. There's no such thing as karma. Sorry. Sorry, but life is random. The only word to describe it when a big game hunter gets trampled by an elephant and then eaten by lions is hilarious.
And that brings us back to where this whole thing started. Whoopi took a swing at Maher for thinking out loud and reaching his own conclusions, and Maher pointed out the irony without missing a beat. A show that markets itself on the idea of diverse perspectives went after someone for having a perspective that differed from theirs. He didn't get angry about it, he found it almost amusing. Because when you strip away the noise, that's exactly what it is. A group loudly championing tolerance while showing very little of it toward anyone who disagrees. Maher keeps shining a light on that contradiction, and the more they push back, the brighter it gets. That's a wrap on today's breakdown. If you found this worth watching, hit like, drop your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. See you in the next one.